I'm Keila Roldan. I am a multi-disciplinary artist, which is basically just a fancy way of saying I do a lot of jobs in the arts. I am an actor and a writer and a singer and a model, and anything that kind of uses those skill sets I love. Um, it's interesting to prepare for this because I wanted to prepare. Uh, I realized that the word success is a very interesting word, and I think that we have a lot of kind of societal ideas of what success is, and I think that as an artist, it's interesting because I don't have a lot of kind of benchmark goals that you kind of check off, like, oh, I did that thing, I moved up in the company, I got a promotion. It's all so intrinsically connected to me as a person, that it feels that success almost to me is like the persistence. Like persistence is success. The fact that I am still doing this, the fact that I love it so much that even when things aren't really going well, I keep doing it. I think that as an artist, that's kind of all you can really ask for. Maybe not all, aim higher, but um, it's interesting that like I feel like I've had a lot of tiny successes in my life, and that those kind of build up and have a ripple effect and lead to bigger opportunity that leads to bigger successes. But it's a very slow burn, I think. Um, and I believe a lot in manifestation, which I think is really important to talk about. I have a new relationship to it, I think, and I've noticed a really big change in opportunity coming my way when I speak it out to the universe. And whether you speak it out loud or speak it in a journal or speak it to a friend, like I think just acknowledging the power and like knowing what you're capable of and asking for what you desire, I think there's this kind of universal energetic connectivity in that where like if you are on your highest vibrational pattern, like those things will come along. And to me, it's less about making the opportunity and more like being ready when the opportunity comes. Um, anyway, that's how I have perceived my own success. I think for the arts particularly, I think, like I said, you kind of have to really love what you're doing. Ideally in any career choice you pick, but there's not a lot of reward externally or validation externally. You're kind of just doing a lot of work to the void, and just because you love it. Um, like to go back to the beginning, I grew up spending a lot of time alone in my house, so I feel like I gained a connection to like my imagination and the arts really early without really understanding that I was doing that. But I watched a lot of films just on repeat and like before streaming days. So like a lot of the same VHSs being rewound and just watched over and over. And I played a lot of imagination. Like I used to get in trouble all the time for taking my mom's brooms and fighting the trees outside because I always wanted to be a Power Ranger or like a spy. Um, or even just working in a grocery store or an office. Like I just loved pretending and living somebody else's reality. Um, and music was kind of like the opposite, whereas like with my imagination, that was a way to kind of disassociate a little bit. But with music, it was the opposite feeling for me. Like I would just sit with myself for hours with my CD player on and just really think about the lyrics and really interpolate it into my life and like cry and do all of this like releasing. And I feel like I really, really am so connected to music. Like my entire life, I used to sing little songs to myself to like calm myself down when I was little. And it's kind of remarkable to see how that connection has kind of fueled me and grown as I've gotten older. Um, like when I was in high school, I was a freshman and my brother was a senior. And before that, I hadn't really done any performing or anything. I was an athlete and a visual artist. And my brother dared me to audition for the musical. And I always just wanted to look cool to my brother. So I was like, yeah, of course, sure. Pff, no problem. I was terrified. And I auditioned and I got in. And what I thought was just going to be like a check to be like, proved it to him. actually was like a discovery of something that I really didn't know I needed, which was community. I think community can be really fueling and feel like such a support system. And something about musicals and acting in theater, you kind of create this tiny little family that you spend so many hours with developing these things and getting personal with. And I don't think I had like at least not many deep relationships before that. And I feel like theater, using the words of others and like dissecting what everything means to us, like really allowed me to kind of tap into my emotions and be able to like start discussing feelings and understanding how your environment affects you and how you affect others. I feel like acting really helped me with human nature, which has been a really beautiful thing to take with me. So I tried out for that, and then the theater teacher, well, very important. My first role that I got in for that, it was Beauty and the Beast, and I played the sausage girl, which is the person selling sausages at the beginning. And I had the fourth bonjour, and I also was a fork, a silver dinner fork, and I had to wear these parachute pants and like dance through the Be Our Guest scene. And that also was really cool because I'm a really weird, kind of goofy, nerdy person, and theater has a way of like encouraging that. Like all the things you stifle of like, oh, that might be too weird. It's actually celebrated in theater. So it was really great to like tap into my weirdness and understand that I wasn't the weirdest person ever. I'm actually like quite normal. I just hadn't found my people yet. So the teacher saw me in that and really liked me and actually asked me to audition to be in this like exclusive theater class, because that class then puts on another musical every year, and she wanted me to audition for that. And I was really thrown. I was like, there's no way I killed it being a silver dancing fork, but okay, if you think you saw something, let's go for it. So I remember like really preparing and like practicing a lot, like every day. And I would like meet my brother on my lunch breaks and have him like give me notes and stuff before I auditioned. And I got into that class, and then I auditioned for the musical, and I got my first role, which was Gabriela Montez in High School Musical. And I think I really annoyed everyone because I was so excited that I learned like everyone's lines. I knew all the choreography. I knew everything. And I loved it so much. It was so cool to like do all this work to be somebody else for a while. And not that I had like the worst life or anything, but it just felt so nice to like connect in ways that I didn't know were possible through somebody else's fictional life. So I ended up doing that for a couple of years. I got in the class, and then I got in show choir, and I was like, wow, I really like performing. This is kind of insane. And my senior year, I did this show, Aida, and I got the lead in Aida, and which is like slightly problematic because she's a Nubian princess. But if we just look past that, it was the first time I think that I like really, really threw myself into the work and realized that like it didn't feel like work to me. Like I would go to all the rehearsals every day, and then I would go home and I would keep practicing, and I would go home and run lines, and then I would meet my friends who were also in it, and we would just run the songs over and over and over, like all just drive around in our car, just running the songs. And I think that was like the first real indication to me that this was something that I could do for a really long time, that it didn't feel like work. It felt like so gratifying to like be putting myself into something and not be getting something back from other people, but having the payoff of like, oh, I can do that. I did that. I didn't even think I could learn these lines, and I have done this show 7 times now and done all these songs. And I remember this moment. It was our last dress rehearsal before we opened, and there was this part in the song that I was scared of singing. It was a really high note for me, and every time we got to that part in rehearsal, I just went and I just didn't sing it, like it didn't exist. And my teacher that day was like, if you don't sing the note in rehearsal today, we're cutting it. Like that part of the song will be gone. So it's up to you if you don't feel comfortable. But from here on out, like it will be cut. And I was in the hallway, and I was just like freaking myself out. Like I can't do it. I just know I can't do it. And I had a friend come out and meet me. And it's funny, like, I'm sure he doesn't know the impact of these words at all, but he just was like, you got this role because you can do it. You've shown up to every other part of this. You just need to try without being scared. You just need to go for it without being scared, even if it's just once, where you're not holding back or apprehensive, and just let it go. Just let it go. Don't worry about anybody else hearing it. This is for you to do it. This is for you to let it go. And so I got called back in and we did the song, and it got up to that point and I just heard him go like, just let it go. Just let it go. And the note came out, and it came out really well. It came out fully supported, and everyone just stopped and started like screaming and like running out and like cheering for me and stuff, because I mean, we thought for sure I was going to cut it. But again, it all just kind of keeps tying into this thing about like community and support. Like, I'm sure he doesn't know how that impacted me, but I think about that moment all the time when I think I can't do something, because that was just such a tangible example of like me thinking I was incapable and then trying and realizing I was capable. And sometimes it doesn't matter in what way that happens, but just having an example of that where you're like, oh, I overcame a thing and I did something I thought was impossible, is enough to just fuel you. And I just really took off and started singing with like so much less fear, and it felt like such a release and an expression. It was incredible. Just thought I wanted to share that. But it's a testament to like leading with kindness and what you can do for other people if you're kind and supportive. You can really like change someone's trajectory. So I did those, and I decided that I wanted to go to school for it after that show. I was like, this is it. I think I found what I want to do. So I only applied to one school because I didn't know what I was doing. And I applied to UCLA, and I was like super gung-ho, like taking all the tests and doing everything. And I had a very eye-opening, humbling audition when I showed up, and everyone there was like a ballerina with all of this like gear and stuff, and I had done like 3 musicals. And I had a really bad audition and I didn't get in, and I was really heartbroken, and trying to not be too heartbroken because I knew that I didn't do all the work that I should have. I should have had other options. So I was like, I don't think you really get to be heartbroken. You need to figure out what you're going to do. And actually, I was having a conversation in my choir room being like, I just know that I want to perform. I just know that I want to live somewhere else and I want to perform. And I'm just not sure how to do that. And as I was walking out of the choir room feeling kind of defeated, I like looked to the left of the door, and there was a poster for this college in Los Angeles that accepts late admissions. It was a performing arts college, and it was like, good news, you can, submit late. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. It's like a sign. But it really is like what I was saying, like that's one example of speaking it out. Like, I thought it was hopeless. And then I say to the world, like, okay, I know that I want these things for sure. And then this poster pops up, and I took it as a sign, and I auditioned and I got in. And I ended up moving to Los Angeles when I was 18, feeling ill-prepared for sure. I was kind of sheltered growing up, which I didn't realize until I got here. But it was kind of a chance to like start over. I feel like even if you don't go to college straight from high school, I think there is such a power in moving away from where you grew up, even if it's just for a little while, because when you spend all that time with other people having influence and kind of building your perspective, that's kind of all you see. And even if you step out to a town over or something, you kind of get to start from the bottom and build your world up and build how you see things up again. And it was really important for me, I think, to like go there and be declarative of my queerness and of my otherness, and be in a community where there were like other queer artists. Like in back home, the only person I knew who was gay, who was out, was my brother, period. I didn't know anybody else. And it was this like huge deal that he was out. And, my first class in college, there were 7 guys that were obviously gay. And I was like, wow, these people exist everywhere. People like me exist everywhere. This is crazy. And I got to like start fresh and be a little louder and a little more boisterous and a little more confident, without worrying of like changing my image. It was really freeing. I think I could have focused a lot more in school. I was a little scatterbrained, but um, I think it's just so important to find yourself in whatever way you can do that. Walking towards yourself, I think, particularly as queer people growing up, I think we spend a lot of time figuring out how to assimilate, and how to kind of undo what makes us different for like safety. And I think I've spent a lot of my adulthood trying to like slough that off and walk back towards myself. And every time I get closer to myself, it's like a breakthrough of, wow, there I am. And better opportunities come from that because they're aligned with who I am actually, not with who I'm trying to be. Um, so I went to college, and it was the first year they had a BFA program there. We were the first year that you could actually get a degree, which was a big selling point for my parents, um, to spend that much money and send me away. Um, so I got my BFA in musical theater, and I mean, all I really wanted to do was perform. So at the end of our senior year, there was this big showcase that was really marketed towards our parents of like, see, they will get work. There's going to be agents coming to see them work. Like, don't worry. But I guess there was a problem. I don't really know what happened. But instead of having musical theater agents come see us work, TV agents came. So pretty much no one got work out of college because they were all like, it's a little too big for TV because we were doing theater. So it was a little disheartening, and I was a little worried about what I was going to do after school. I had been in this bubble. I had been in this bubble for so long. And a friend of mine had already been doing theater. So he introduced me to his theater agent. So I got a theater agent, which felt very important. That felt like a check mark. And but turns out doing theater in Los Angeles is not lucrative at all. Very, very not sustainable. You have a lot of free work, a lot of free rehearsals. You travel about an hour away. It's like a 3-month process. And it's usually about enough to pay like a month's rent for like the 3-month run of everything. So it just got to be a little much. And I was like, oh no, I think I just need to find a job. So I started working very hard as a personal assistant to a doctor in Santa Monica. And then I also worked as a server in Chili's, just to keep it real. That's where I was. And I was driving 2 hours to work and 2 hours home every day, and feeling really lost and not creative and not understanding, like, how do I take this bachelor's degree, which is so cool and great to get, but how do I take this and do something tangible with it? Which is not something they teach you. And sorry, my cat's trying to get over here. And so I just kept working. I was like, at least I can do is save money and until I figure out if I need to like take some more acting classes or get into a conservatory or something. And my best friend at the time was living in this nice apartment in Hollywood. And he was like, you know, I actually have these guys I want to introduce you to. They're so cool. I really want you to meet them. So he introduced me to these guys, and they were all rappers. They were really young. They had just gotten out of music school. And they were like, oh, Mitch told us that you were a singer. And I was like, yeah, I haven't really done it in a while, you know. But they had me come over and showed me some of their work and had me sing for them. And it was really nice. And then 3 different rappers all asked if I would like sing on their tracks. And I had never done anything like that before. But it was like my first experience like with music that wasn't theater. And I was like, oh, it like changed the game for me. I was like, oh, you can do these separately. Like I trained together, but you can take all these skills and put them wherever you can use them. There's so many other jobs that aren't just theater. So I fell in with these guys, and I was performing with them and recording on their tracks and learning how to write a little bit. And then I was like, oh, so I understand how to collaborate. That's cool. So then I had like another friend who lived nearby who was a songwriter and guitar player. And him and my girlfriend, who's now my fiance, Jazz, started hanging out with him a lot. And then we were doing a lot of like beautiful, like folk 3-part harmony singing. And Zach helped me kind of understand like composition, and we sang a lot of covers and like changing a song to sound and feel differently. And I learned like how to do that. So we performed as a group for a while. And then I started performing just with Jazz for a while. And this is all just, you know, the ripple effect of how I've gotten here. But so I was working with Jazz, and we got hit up on Instagram from a stranger, just this really lovely person that was like, hey, I saw a video of you two singing, and I just think you're amazing. Like, would you play this show? Would you open this show? So we're like, of course. So we opened the show and really hit it off with this person. And a few days later, she asked Jazz to be a part of her band because she needed someone who like could dance and play an instrument, and Jazz is really great at that. So they were planning a rehearsal, and we had just moved into this apartment, and they were like, yeah, we'll meet on Tuesday or something, you know, like whatever. And Jazz walks out of the house and literally bumps into Britt outside, and we realize that we share a wall and live right next to each other in a 6-complex unit. We are 2 of them. And I was like, wow, the universe brought you to us. Like, the universe just clearly brought you to us to, you know, inspire us and get this performance opportunity and have someone that's like in this world, like really doing music on a bigger scale than these other things we had been a part of. And it was really cool watching Jazz and her rehearse and do stuff. And I was like, another moment of my manifestation power. I was like, man, I want to be a part of a band. And then I got a message from a friend who's in a band, and his backup singers couldn't be there for this benefit show they were doing. And he's like, this sounds crazy, but I know that you've worked in music. Could you possibly learn like 7 songs in like the next 3 days and perform this show with us? And again, I was like, there's no way. Like, that's so much stuff to learn. But because I'm me, I was like, yeah, sure. I'll do that. Yeah, no problem. And another time where I just proved to myself, like, you really shouldn't just be your own naysayer. Like, just try, because you're never going to accomplish anything by not trying, which is, you know, an old trope, but it's so true. Like, just try. So I did this benefit, and I was worried that I was going to bomb it, and I felt really bad. And I did so well, they actually kind of fired the other 2 backup singers and brought me on permanently as the only singer in the band, backup singer in the band. And that was really cool for me, because that was like a real like band performance experience. We had like rehearsals in a shed, and like we had big shows that were like very performative and like dancing all over the stage and hyping people up. It was like an indie pop band. And in this collaboration, I was doing so well in this band that they invited me to write with them, and I started like creating the music with them. And it just really flexed a lot of muscles I didn't know I had in writing and stuff. And that led to me joining another band and doing these like these duets, these kind of indie pop duets, and really honing like how I want to write. But then I was like, I'm not sure that I want to keep being these like side units to these. I think it's about time that I figure out how to write without influence. So I took some space to figure out how to write, and I started writing songs privately. I didn't show anyone, very privately, like voice memos and like, you know, tapping on my phone. But I just felt really inspired, and I ended up having this summer where I met all of these musicians that all just happened to know each other. Some people from that band, some people from the other band. And we had this year, maybe not even a whole year, of like a summer of this kind of musician collective that we all were part of. And it was not anything we discussed, but it was like a lot of vibrations of people that really just wanted to be out and doing it. And we're like, the only way to do that is to do it ourselves. So we kind of made this collective where like we were in each other's bands, and we would help each other record. And if someone had a show, everyone would show up and mob to the show so that like ticket sales were good, and we like bolster each other. And it was really amazing, like to have kind of this like young artistic support group, because we all just were so hungry to be singing. And we had this house party. We had many house parties, but we would have these house parties where they set up instruments in the living room. So anyone who wanted to jump up, we just had live music going all night. Of like, if you wanted to jump up and ad lib, you wanted to jump up and do a cover, like it's just a free for all. And it's funny how like just hanging with my friends and doing the things I love, those house parties actually made a lot of opportunity for me because people would come through and hear me singing. So we were introduced to a lot of people. We were invited to another party where we met some like really cool producers, and we met Anderson .Paak before he was famous, and just like had no idea how influential all these people were going to be. But I was asked to sing backups for another artist. But this time it was like pop R&B. It felt a little more aligned. I felt like I had my own stuff going on. So in the hopes of finding balance with all that stuff, I was like, I think I have space to do some backups again. So I asked Jazz to join, my partner, and we sang backups in this project called Via. And man, we hit it off with the artist so bad. She's literally my best friend now. And we just had such a good time. And it kind of gave us the love for like performing and doing background work again. And then everyone kind of started passing us around a little bit, where everyone kept talking about what a great backup unit Jazz and I were. So at one point we were doing backups for 4 separate bands at the same time. Just trying to like, just get it all, you know? And then Via really took off in a beautiful way. We were touring and doing a bunch of really cool stuff like in 2019 that just like was really fueling everything else. And I felt super, super capable. We opened for T-Pain. And I mean, that's something I've noticed about myself, that if there's not a lot going on in my actual life that doesn't have to do with being creative, I don't have a desire to be creative. That they're kind of tied intrinsically. Like if I'm in a bad place, I don't write anything. And if I feel really grounded and connected to people and connected to life, I write a ton. So as we were doing like touring and stuff, it really kind of fueled me to want to be doing my own stuff again. So I used my tour money and kind of just put it back into myself and started writing with a producer. Instead of being like covetous and keeping it to myself, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to share this and try and build something with someone. So I had a friend who was a producer, really talented producer that worked with a bunch of people. And I asked him to lunch. And I was like, I'm just going to be real. I really want to do this. I really want to start doing this. And I love your work. And if you have the space and time, I would really love to collaborate with you. And it took a while. It took almost a year for him to have free time, but he remembered me. And like a year later, he called me. He's like, I'm free now. Let's get in the studio. So like planting that little seed took time. It always takes patience, I think, waiting for these things to come along. But if you do the work in the meantime, like I said, and you wait for those opportunities, then you can grab them when they come by. So I made 4 songs with him that I was really, really proud of, and still working 3 restaurant jobs at the same time. And I remember in the process of writing those songs, I'm just a greedy person, I think. I'm like, so my mind is so scatterbrained all the time. But as I was writing songs and feeling really fulfilled musically, I was like, I want to act more. Man, whatever happened to that acting stuff? And I was talking to my friend about it, and I was like, I don't know how that would come along. I'm so busy anyway, but like, I miss it. I miss it a lot. And then I got scouted at work when I was working at a restaurant by an agent who worked at a commercial agency, which is the only commercial agency I ever looked up that I was interested in. And she just happened to work for them. And she signed me to a commercial agent. And that was incredible because music's expensive and you don't really have like a sponsor. So it made it so that I could quit 2 of those restaurant jobs and put music and put money into creating more music, which was everything. So I used that commercial money and I made a music video, which I'm really proud of, that Jazz stars in. And I made it with my friends. And that to me is like the most rewarding thing ever, a collaborative experience with friends. And my friends are like family to me. So a collaborative experience with your family where you all have one vision and you make something tangible that will just live forever. It was really cool. So we put that out in the beginning of 2020. And I was like, this is my year. I was like, it's all going to happen now. My music's out, video's out. I got a commercial agent. I'm about to get a band together so I can play live, which is my absolute favorite thing in the world. It's like why I do everything else is to get these live moments. And then March happened and everything stopped, as you know. And I lost my restaurant job. We stopped touring. My producer I was working with had to close his studio. So that stopped. And I just felt very lost, very, very lost, which I know a lot of us did and maybe do still. But I think, I don't want to use the word necessary. I think for me, there was a lot of growth that came out of this time. I put a lot of energy in the bustle where I'm constantly, working 3 jobs and doing all this stuff. Where this time really made me slow down and look at what things I really want to prioritize in my life. And I think not being able to see live music, not being able to do it, of course, but not being able to see live music, I felt so disconnected and not like myself. I felt so uninspired. I didn't write for a year. And I mean, it's just so important that you have things that fill your cup back up. Because like I said, like, I don't really know how it is for non-artistic jobs because it's just not really what I do. But these jobs come from my soul. So like, if my soul is not balanced or in a good place, it's really hard to create any kind of work. So this time really forced me to figure out, okay, if I can't get that from live music, where can I get that from? So I took up boxing, which has been incredible. I know, random, right? Incredible. It was a way to get me out of my head and into my body again. And then once I got in my body, there's so much to think about in boxing that it got me back in my head, but in a positive way where I'm in control. And it helped with my focus. I started playing basketball again with like a queer BIPOC group. And I started taking like dance classes on YouTube, just like things that make me feel creative that aren't necessarily writing, because that's just too hard. And then by the time that live music came back around and I was able to go to my first show again, which was BTS, and it was crazy. I was already in a good place. So then like getting that feeling, it just set me on fire. Honestly, the first time I saw live music again, I was like, oh, this is what I've been missing. This is like, it feels like a life source. That's how much it means to me. It genuinely feels like it's dramatic, but I couldn't live without music. I don't know how to exist without it. And I've been doing all this work now in the past like couple of years of just like getting things together so that I can be ready for these opportunities when they start coming again. And I started working with a producer who hit me up from Austria, found me on the internet, loved my music, and was like, I started to teach myself how to engineer and stuff because I wasn't working with my producer, and making these demos that were not an end product by any means. But because I tried, I had something to show this guy and tell him, hey, these are in shambles, but these are my ideas. But I'm not going to have anything like done in a long time. And he was like, I'd love to help you. So I made this friendship literally from across the world and have created songs that I'm really proud of and have been, putting time and money into like making visuals for them and getting things ready to show. And, feeling empowered and making this music again makes me feel sure of myself. It makes me speak my wants and desires out. And after, almost 3 years of not performing, I was like, I am ready. I want to perform. I want to share these songs with people. I want this so badly. And because the universe listens, a friend hit me up that they were doing a showcase and they wanted to showcase my music. So I played my songs out for the first time, and it was beautiful and I loved it, but it was like in a backyard. So the only thing that I took from that, other than it being beautiful and amazing, and I like ripped that band-aid off, was like, I want to do this the proper way, like in a venue. I want to do this with lights. I want to do this with the crowd. And a couple weeks later, my friend John hit me up, who was part of that collective of artists that won summer 5 years ago, and was like, I have a residency at the Echo, which is one of my favorite venues in LA, and was like, I would love for you to open. So I just played a couple months ago my first solo show ever and shared my own music for the first time. And I don't know that I've ever felt better, honestly. Not today, but in that moment. I don't think I've ever felt better. It was like coming home, but like a million different ways at the same time. And it just really solidified that, like, I hate to keep coming back to this trope, but as a queer person, it's really hard to take up space sometimes, because I've spent so long making myself small, and that's something that I'm working on. But on a stage, I don't feel that at all. I feel like this is my time. You came to see me. You came to see what I have to offer. So it becomes this like safe haven where I am accepted however I am. They don't necessarily have to like it, but I am accepted however I am. And there's a freedom in that allows me to really feel the reciprocity in it, and like the cheers and the support. Like, my guards aren't up. So everything just comes in and fuels me and excites me. And there's this connectivity with people in like a real live way, especially after all this time away. We're having an exchange, and that feels more powerful than anything, genuinely anything. So I'm just in the process now of trying to get more of that. I have a show on Halloween, which should be fun. Because I think the thing that fuels me and all this stuff is music, yes, but because of the connectivity of it. Because I can connect to music in another language and cry and not even know what they're saying. And I can listen to something and think I have no relation to it, and then one day it hits me that it means something else completely to me. And there's this kind of binding element, where I get to create this catharsis and then release it, and then it becomes someone else's. So in a way, we're always connected and we're always like existing in this world together. It creates a tether. And I think like human connectivity is like one of the most important things in the world to me. So I just want to keep doing that in any way I can. No more multiple restaurant jobs. I think that my true goal of success, like my biggest goal, is to be doing music and having that support me and no other work. To be touring, to be playing live, and have that be my main source of income. I think I will have peaked for sure. That's really it. That's where I'm now. I don't know if you have any questions or anything. I just talked for so long. But thank you for holding space. I've never done anything like this, and it feels pretty special.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing you and your story and your pathway and your passion behind what you do. That's very excellent. And we can definitely take from it as to why we do what we do and just really knowing our why. And these are the things that we want to be able to relay not only to our students, but our families that we work with and anybody that we come in, encounter to be able to understand why we do what we do, the different professions and the fields that we're in. And it's a pleasure to have individuals come and speak with us on behalf of how they got started and why they're in what they're in regard to, the background and why they're working so hard to be able to get to a point to where it's like, this is my purpose. I feel it here. And I love that you always say your community, feeling a
Mhm.
part. That's what I definitely took away from how you got started, from high school all the way up until now, having your community and finding those who fit within what you do. And I think that's
Mhm.
very important because sometimes when we're in high school and when we're trying to figure out who we are and why we're doing what we're doing and we're going through those different stages, you're wanting to find those people like, I fit
Mhm.
here, I belong here. And so I feel like your message and just the passion that I hear from you sharing your story is very beneficial. So I don't have any questions. I just wanted to share that with you because I feel like these are the things that our students need to hear, especially speaking on behalf of the pandemic, feeling lost, like
Mhm.
you were authentic with how you felt in that moment and where you are currently. And to see someone that they probably can relate to, like, hey, I feel that way. I'm still feeling that way. And you be able to speak to that is very, very important. So thank you again for sharing this. It was definitely a moment in time to be able to listen and hear your story. And kudos to you. Congratulations on all of the things that you've done and the things that you will continue to do. I just thank you. I really appreciate you coming and speaking. It was very important, and we are grateful to have you to be able to
So
do this
much.
for us.
I just think it's important that someone said this the other day that work working towards your success, working towards your goals isn't always going to be like a stair that you're climbing. Sometimes you're working laterally, and that work is just as important, even if you're not getting a better understanding or a higher vantage point. Like all of that plays in to your story and your journey of your work and yourself.
Laura, did you have anything? Anything?
No, I mean, just thank you, Kayla, so much. I took pages of notes. But yeah, I mean, you said so many great things, and I love that you did keep coming back to community and connection because I think that's so important. We talk a lot about building relationships too, right? And so you
Mhm.
have all of these relationships with people that, um, you know, have different impacts, across time. And I love hearing about that because that's, something that's really important, I think, is just that community, that network, those relationships.
Mhm.
And so that was really fun to hear how it was woven throughout your story, and how you spoke to opportunities, being prepared for opportunities, right? And again, these relationships brought opportunities that maybe at one time you didn't know, but
Mhm.
they showed back up later. And I love that because I think that's kind of a through thread for a lot of people. And so it's important to hear again and just be reminded of the importance of it.
Mhm. You never know the weight of a decision. You could feel the ripple of that way down the line. Also, not being scared of the word networking. I think that word really frightened me when I was younger. And I would like really try and like network and like really get like, what do you do? And I think as I've grown up and realized that like it's not really like forcing relationships, it's just cultivating the ones that you have. Um, because that becomes your network. Like network is just kind of another word for like community and stability. I don't think you have to like go falsify things or try and sell yourself. Like usually the most authentic interactions are those people that I end up working with down the line. It's not like the one I was selling myself to.
Yep, I totally agree with all of that. And I love that you stated authentic. That is
Mm,
just allowing it to align with what it needs to get you to the next step. And
absolutely.
that's just being real. So um thank you so much for the gems that you've provided for us today.
Thank you
Looking
both. I
forward,
really appreciate it.
looking forward to all of the new adventures and the things that you'll participate in. Please be sure to keep in contact with us.
Yes.
Definitely would love to see those things, and just thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you.